When it comes to trading gold futures on Robinhood, you may have seen the ads and you may have been curious. Maybe you started trading it. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I trade gold futures on Robinhood, and you may be surprised to know that the data that you see on Robinhood isn't necessarily the data that comes from COMEX, which is the commodities exchange, which is the official futures data provider. Robinhood actually uses something else, and we're going to talk about that a little bit differently and why you may be interested in trading some other gold asset on Robinhood just in case gold futures is not for you. So when you're trading gold futures, you need to enable gold futures on your account. That will mean that you will need a margin account inside of Robinhood. So that's really easy to do. Basically, I found it because these pop-ups were right here on side of the web application. I followed it. I signed up for futures, and it was actually pretty easy because I did have a margin account already because I do trade options inside of this account. So it was super easy to find futures and to be able to add it to my portfolio. Have you ever thought that you had to sit in front of charts all day in order to make money from the markets? Well, in this How to Trade with a Full-Time Job kit, I'm going to show you how to master trading in just 1 hour per day without sacrificing your job. You're going to get the strategies that I personally use in order to be able to make time in order to trade and learn and do whatever else I need to do inside of my life. So if you've been to other brokers and you've traded gold futures on those brokers, you may have seen things like GC, which is a symbol for a standard gold unit inside of the futures market, and then MGC, which is the micro gold, and then some other future brokers have other designations for gold. But for the most part, here in Robinhood, I trade MGC, which is the micro, which is basically 1/10 of the GC, which is the standard. So in order to find it, all you have to do is hit /MGC, and then you will see the different contracts that will pop up. So the active one is the current one at this point in time. It's April 2025. And if you want to understand how to understand gold futures, then go ahead and check out this video inside of my channel where I break down in depth. Let's just say, and you can see I'm at like $56 loss for today, and I'll tell you why. That's why I wanted to make this video. But anyway, you could buy futures or you can sell futures. Basically, it's just going to default to the most recent one, which is the April 2025 contract. And you can see the price here. You can see how much it was up today. You can see the bid and the ask spread, which is nice. So you could do a limit order, market order, or stop order. Usually I'll do a limit order mainly because with market, you don't really know what you're going to get, especially if you have a wide bid ask spread. So I typically do the limit order, and then there's a stop order. I don't really use that, but feel free to research that. So anyway, when it comes to the price, you normally just type something in, and then the quantity, I usually do 1 or maybe 2, just because I'll show you in a second. When it comes to the margin requirement for this particular account, it's $13.75 per contract. So if I want to do 2 contracts, I would need this value times 2. And then of course you would just multiply it based on the number of contracts that you have. So usually I'll just do 1 just because it's relatively low risk. And then you could do GFD, which is good for the day, or GTC, which is good until canceled. So depending on what's happening, I may do either of these. So, and then I like that it gives you the date and the time right there, so you get an idea. So let's just go ahead and say hypothetically, we wanted GTC, and then this tells you how much you are using of your margin. So, and then you can see the fees. I do like that they're very transparent with the fees, $137 for commission, $75 for total commission, and then this regulatory fee. So as you can see with gold futures, the fees can really add up. But if you're looking to trade and have a substantial gain, as we all hope inside of the gold futures market, then these fees are basically irrelevant. So that's one thing. So once again, if you increase the quantity, then the margin goes up. So you can see that now if I do 4 contracts, that's 5,000, 6,000, 8, and then it tells you down here how much money you have available in order to trade. And you can see that it pretty much stays the same, but if you meet this 12,000, whatever I have in here, and you keep adding contracts, I think it gets to a point where it stops. Oh no, it continues to go. Okay, that's weird. So that's one thing to know in case you accidentally type in the wrong quantity number. That's something that I've done before, especially when trading options. So just know that that is a thing. So we're just gonna get rid of that. Go back down to 1. Let's go ahead and review order. So now it just tells you, hey, you're placing an order to buy 1 contract and give you all the terms. It tells you all of the information, and it will tell you when it was last refreshed. So that's another thing too. I noticed that with trading gold futures on Robinhood, it's not always the quickest compared to the actual COMEX provider. So then you just hit buy and then done. And then they're trying to get you into gold, which I don't have it. It's not really for me. So I just hit done and there I go. So if I go back to the home screen, then there is nothing there. There is nothing there. I don't know why. So, but anyway, maybe because I am doing this on the weekend. So if you were to do this during the week, when the hours are active, then you would see a pending order over here. So one of the things that is very interesting to me in terms of trading gold futures on Robinhood, I like the ease of it, but there's no way to actually get to the futures area. You have to type in the symbol and you have to just know what that is. So if I want to type in GC, then here we go right there. And then it will take me to this market, which is fine. And then you'll also notice that the margin requirement is literally 10 times as much as micro gold, which is why I trade micro gold at this point instead of gold futures until I get my account up well over that in order to be able to trade a standard gold futures contract. So anyway, so one of the things that I thought was interesting is not really easy to get to the gold futures contracts inside of Robinhood unless you save it inside of a list like I did here. Actually, I have the standard and I have the micro gold here inside of my watch list where it's easy for me to just jump right to it. But typically I'm just typing in the symbol, especially on the web version, just because it's a lot easier for me to do that. But just know that it's not as quick to get to. So you just want to save it inside of a list so that way you can access it easily. All right. So another thing I want to point out, and this is one of the biggest things that I want to point out with trading gold futures on Robinhood, is essentially the fact that the data is not always current. So I'm going to take you to my photo album because I took screenshots of what this chart looked like and then what my TradingView looked like literally seconds apart. And this actually cost me not to continue with a winning trade because this chart was very different. So let me go ahead and pull that up. Okay, so here is the chart that I took a screenshot of. This was actually yesterday. You can see clearly that the price was going up. And then literally seconds later, I took a picture of what my trading view looked like and the price was going down. So what actually happened hours and hours later, price did hit my profit target, but because the future market on Robinhood showed that the price was going up and it was getting really close to my stop loss, then I decided to exit the trade. Of course, that was 100% on me. However, just know that when you're trading gold futures inside of Robinhood, it may not always match what you see from the COMEX provider, which you can see right here, COMEX provider inside of TradingView. So the reason for that is because they use a different data set when they're populating the data for Robinhood. So if you Google something like, why does Robinhood futures chart not work, or like Robinhood futures chart data, then you could see that it's different data if you have to dig a little bit. And I thought this was very interesting. So let's go here. Okay, I don't even know what this is. I've never seen that. Level 2 data. Oh, I think that's something that you get when you go to gold. But let me go back to Google. And then I found it was NASDAQ. NASDAQ last, like price. There it is. Okay, so when it comes to Robinhood, it says, depending on the time of day, Robinhood partners with either NASDAQ, last sale, or BOATS. So I was trying to Google what BOATS was. Basically, you have the acronym here. You can look it up. I did look it up actually on Wikipedia, so we'll go to that in a second. But BOATS, and basically, you're not getting the data from COMEX. COMEX is the commodities exchange, and that is the official data provider when it comes to gold futures. So that probably explains why the data that I saw on Robinhood when I was in this trade yesterday versus what I was seeing in TradingView, they didn't match because the data providers were different. Now that's something that you usually have to battle when you're trading Forex, where you may have 17 different data providers for gold or any other market. I didn't expect to have that issue inside of futures, but now I understand why, because Robinhood does not have that data provider. Now is trying to get access to the correct data inside of TradingView TradingView, but it doesn't look like I can. If I was to type in, let's go over to TradingView. So I just did this NAS 100 video, I saved it, but let's just go over to TradingView. If you type in MGC, then the only thing that you see is basically the gold futures market. And you can see that COMEX is the data provider, which it should be for official futures data. And you'll see all the different contracts for other months, but I'm not interested in that. I'm only interested in the futures market for this current contract right here, because if you click this or this, it won't give you the right data. It won't be the right data that's associated with a contract for the month and the year that you're currently in. I've created another community here on School called Consistent Profitable Traders. And if you want to join, you can go to school.com/traders in order to join this free membership. I have a number of things here inside of the community. You can see that the community is growing. There are people being added almost every single day. And then inside of the classroom, I do have some things here. I'm constantly adding new things, new resources for new traders. And if you go over to the calendar, then you'll see that I have a monthly call with everybody inside of this group. So if you want to join this community, go ahead and go to school.com/traders and I'll see you there. Right now, this is the closest one, April 2025, and that's what I want. So that's one thing that I tried. And then if you just hit futures altogether and collapse this is the only thing that you see inside of TradingView. If you was to type in, let's just say NASDAQ, you'll see NAS 100 or US 100 or something like that, but you won't really see the futures data that you're looking for. Here is one here, Taiwan. I'm not in Taiwan, so that's not going to help me. I need something with an American flag. But basically, it's really hard to find this data. So here's something called NASDAQ Composite Futures. So if you click here, and then these are not even the correct months that I would want, but let's just go ahead and just click on this. And the way that you would check this is you would check with this chart and the Robinhood chart. You can see right now there's absolutely nothing on this chart. It looks like there's not even a full candle there. So that's probably not right. So I'm saying all this to say is that if you're going to trade futures inside of Robinhood, you are going to be reliant on just one chart. And that one chart will be this chart right here. This is the only thing really you could chart off of if you were going to use this provider. Now, is that to say that I'm not going to use Robinhood ever again to trade futures? Absolutely not. I really like how easy it is and how simple it is in order to trade from this platform. All the things that I showed you here, like how to place a trade, etc., are really simple, and it works exactly the same way. One thing that I do like is that when I'm inside of a trade, it'll say something right here that says something like exit all and, basically get out of your trade. I can just hit that button on the web version and I'm totally cool. But if you're on the mobile version, then you won't be able to do that. You will have to manually come up here and say you're in a buy. You will have to hit sell, put the price and all of that in order to be able to sell the contract and get out of it. You won't be able to do it as easily on mobile. So that's basically the difference. Everything else is exactly the same inside of mobile versus the web version of futures. So that is all I wanted to say here. The biggest thing that was a frustration for me yesterday when I was in a live trade, not being able to see the correct data. And as a trader, data is everything. I use candlesticks. Sometimes I will enter on price alone, and that's totally cool. But in this situation, I really wanted to see how the candles were forming, so that way I could figure out if I need to get out or I need to stay in. And Robinhood was telling me to get out, and the COMEX side was telling me to stay in. Of course, since I'm trading on Robinhood, I'm going to go with that data and focus on that data alone. Now, eventually it did catch up and it did go in the direction that the regular COMEX data was going, but I was already out the trade and it basically didn't matter at this point. So one of the other things that I wanted to talk about when it comes to trading futures on Robinhood is the slippage and the spread. So now the spread is basically the difference between what people are willing to buy for contracts and what sellers want to sell them for. And the difference between those two is what the broker Robinhood will get. So that's one thing. But the thing that I really want to focus on here is actually the slippage. So here is one of the contracts that that I traded on Robinhood. It's an MGC contract, so it's a micro gold contract. And basically, the biggest thing that I want to bring to your attention is this realized profit. Now, in this situation, this is a profitable trade, which is obviously amazing. However, when I actually went to go press that button that said close, there was something like $385 or $383 of realized profit. And if you look at what I saw versus what actually took place, there's about a $5 to $7 difference. And it may not seem like a whole lot of money for just one contract. You see, I only have one contract here, but what if I had 100 contracts? If you take that $5 to $7 difference between what I saw here and what 100 contracts would look like, that's $500 to $700, which is a lot. And if you're trying to sell that many contracts at the same time, the slippage could be a lot more, could literally cost you thousands of dollars. So that's one of the things that I really did not like about trading futures on Robinhood. Yes, it's convenient. I already had some money inside of the account and it was all good. But when you take the slippage into consideration and the fact that there are commissions and fees, then your total becomes even less, especially if you have more than just one contract. So that's definitely something to consider when it comes to trading Robinhood and specifically using futures. And also keep in mind that the data that they use is not coming from COMEX, which is the commodities exchange, which is essentially the official provider of futures contract data. They are using NASDAQ or maybe even some other set of data. So what you see inside of Robinhood is going to be different from what you see maybe inside of TradingView. And the thing about it, you can't even search for Robinhood futures data inside of TradingView because they're not using COMEX data. So just some more tidbits to take into consideration when trading futures on Robinhood. So just wanted to share with you some of the things that I've seen. I've been, trading futures for about 6 months. Was trading XAU USD, which is also gold, but this is just another way to trade gold. And once again, if you want to see all the different things that are associated with XAU USD versus gold futures, then go ahead and check out that video. There will be a link somewhere on the screen. And if you like this video and want to see more videos of me using these tools and actually giving you an honest review of these things, then go ahead and let me know in the comment section below and comment the word Robinhood if you made it this far. Oh my gosh, it has taken me a lot of time to create this video, and I will see you next time.